Don't worry about time. We got this place till 10, but I want to try to get this wrapped up in the next 25 minutes. There are some things I need to say. This was an amazing year. Last year was amazing. I said many of these same things last year, but that made me nervous. I was like, oh God, what if we suck next year? We got all this momentum going, is it real? But this was an amazing year. Now I'm going to try to keep this brief. I want to tell you about the accomplishments that this team put together, and then I want to talk a little bit about how that happened, and then I want to talk about what we're going to do next year. This year we went 13-7 for the second year in a row. That's 26-14 over 2 years. That's fantastic, and you guys have played tough teams in that process. This year we went undefeated in the conference, and we won the conference outright. This year we finished the season ranked number 11 in the state in 3A, which is just amazing. This year we earned a first round bye in the playoffs, and we made it to the sub-state finals. This year we also had 2 sizable articles written about us in the Register. That kind of notoriety, don't take it for granted. I don't know how much that's happened in the past. And that brought attention, very positive attention to your program. And that was an honor for us. And Chewy, I forgot to tell you, man, I have something special for you. Just going to take a little bit longer for it to get prepared. I'll have it to you by next week. And finally, and maybe the most impressive achievement, and this is what happens when you do all those other things, is I believe you captivated the entire school. So going into the playoffs, and even just going into that Roosevelt game, people were talking about soccer at Lincoln. I had not experienced that before, and I was deeply proud of that. And I really want to keep that going. So how did it happen? I just want to draw your attention to a few what I'm calling turning points over the course of the season. The first turning point to me was the Waukee game. The way I see that was we needed to beat one of those suburban powerhouse teams. And even though Waukee had a bit of a down year this year, at the time we beat them, they were ranked number 8 in the state, and they were convinced in their minds that they were just going to beat up on Lincoln once again. The first half, you played right into their hands, you let them take the lead on you, and you looked like crap. Second half was a completely different story, and as I've said, that may have rewritten the entire season for you. Second turning point was the Iowa City trip, which was a lot of fun, and you'll see some of that. We don't have a lot of footage from that because the weather was so god-awful that we didn't even dare get the camera out. So that was for us. Special time for all of us that were there. That was an especially meaningful time because we played the number 2 and number 3 teams in the state back to back. I was terrified of this when I saw it on our schedule. Oh my God, what if we go off to this tournament and we get beat 7-0 and 8-0 and we come home with our tails between our legs? That was a consideration, and I honestly would have been all right with that on some level. We did the opposite. Pushed Iowa City High, the number 2 team in the state, to PKs, which I consider a tie. We easily could have won that game. Big time statement. And then went toe-to-toe with Ankeny Centennial, who played for the state championship on Saturday. Played them completely even in the first half with mostly our reserves on the field. That's when we knew we could play with anybody, after some humbling losses early in the season. Fantastic. Number 3 turning point for me was the Ottumwa game, and this may sound strange to some of you. We won that game against an inferior opponent, but that was a tough game. They were better than we thought, and the ref was absolutely against us that night. That was a shocking game, and we won, and almost all of us were crying afterward. But the way we responded to that game, we came together in my room, we sat on the floor in a big circle, and we had an incredibly honest conversation that night, or that day. Just about who we are, what we're good at, what we need to improve at, and what we're going to do moving forward. And we did that. Incredibly important day, the Ottumwa game. Number 4 is the Roosevelt game, the first Roosevelt game. Just a stunning night. I already told you everything that was going through my mind. There was so much pressure on you guys going into that game. We had to win that game. And I talked to the newspaper a little bit about this. Guys, it's tough when you're supposed to win every game. And after we played Centennial, we were supposed to win every game for the rest of the year. What happens when you're in that situation is you're not really playing against your opponent, you're playing against yourselves. And so we had all the pressure in the world against us that night against Roosevelt, and you overcame it, played your absolute best game of the season when you needed it most. That was amazing, and it was galvanizing. The final turning point to me was the last game of the season against Johnston. Incredibly humbling defeat to Johnston, losing 5-1 in their place after such a magical season. Mesa, what is your, tell me your quote one more time, your genius bit of wisdom. Give it to me. Oh my God, Mesa, thank you. What you didn't know is that Alex Mesa is a philosopher, and he said, sometimes in life you need to fail to succeed. It's ridiculous, and he just says it to be funny, but in this case it's completely relevant. I told people, and I was in shock after the Johnston loss, but I told people after that game, when they asked me, are you okay, Coach? I said, yes, I'm okay. I'm fine. We needed to lose that game. We needed to lose that game. We weren't going to beat Johnston anyway. And I'm not criticizing you guys at all. We were not going to beat Johnston that day. We needed to lose that game, and we probably needed to lose that game in that way, just so we know what exactly we need to work on moving forward. And now, I'm going to tell you what exactly we're going to be working on, what we're exactly going to be focusing on moving forward into next year. And this will be quick. To me, moving into next year, we have 3 specific points of emphasis at the varsity level, but this trickles down through all programs. Number 1, I demand total focus. Total focus out of all varsity players next year. I love you guys, but you know this was an issue last year, or the last 2 years. And it was a massive issue 3 years ago. Number 2 point of emphasis is physicality. Number 3 point of emphasis is winning balls in the air. We were exposed on all 3 of these levels by Johnston. Guys, the gap between you and Johnston is not nearly as wide as you made it look that day. And it's mainly because up here, they knew exactly what they wanted, and they had the bodies to execute exactly what they wanted to do. Our mission has to be to put those things together, those 2 things together in the coming year. In your evaluations, every one of you returning players got this feedback. Next year, you've got to be tougher, both physically and mentally. We have way too many, and I mean this, and it especially applies to the bench. There were times this year when I knew I needed to make a sub, and I would turn and look at the bench, and I would see nothing but nice guys on the bench. It's great to be nice, guys. Nice, guys. But I don't want nice guys on the field for me. You can be nice in every other aspect of your lives. I need to see this look if you want to play for me. It's just a cold, hard stare. I don't really know what it looks like, but I know it when I see it. And I didn't see it out of us. I didn't see enough of it out of us this year. We've just got to be tougher. How do we do that? Number 1, physically you hit the weights, and there can be no more excuses about this. 2 years ago, the off-season program was amazing. You had a milk car as your leader, and he demanded that you guys were in the weight room. We fell off on that so massively this year, and I didn't have the energy to pull you guys all in and say, what are you doing? Why are you taking these chances? You guys need to figure that out, and we've got to be in the weight room. Otherwise, you will end up in the exact same situation. And number two is the mental aspect of it. I'm just going to read this, and that is not something I typically do, but I'll get us through this. Starting right now, I demand that you begin to treat this whole experience, as though it is just as important as it feels. Just as important as it felt against Johnston. If you can do that, if you can admit to yourself and the people that care about you that you really do care on the deepest level about this team and its potential, I think what you're admitting at that point is that your life matters. And if your life matters, if this is as meaningful as it feels, then why would you want to do anything less than everything you can to see just how far we can take this thing? I have no doubt that each of you right now is committed to this team. There's no doubt about that. What I'm saying is that for something this special, and this year felt special, and last year felt special, next year has to feel even more special. When you feel that, you can't put it away for 7 to 8 months and expect to just turn it back on in the spring. If we're going to see what we're really capable of in 2016, you'll never turn that commitment down. You'll never turn it off. And you'll never forget about your brothers. Think about how many times this year, fellas, varsity, that we had to ask you guys to focus and or to simply try harder. I'm telling you now that if we have to do that next year, if we have to remind you to focus, as though this is like a little note, hey buddy, you should focus. If we have to do that next year, you might be just as successful. You might go 13-7 or something again. But if we have to tell you those things next year, it will be too late already. The expectation has to be that you'll come into preseason next year with all that stuff worked out. All that stuff worked out mentally. Total focus for 3.5 months of your life. And 3.5 months that you'll never get back. This is how you become tougher. You acknowledge the people and things that matter most to you, and you commit to defending them with every ounce of your existence. You do that right now, and you live that to the best of your ability every day moving forward. I know it sounds like a lot, but I think you're ready. And you got tons of help. And so parents, I'm calling on you to help in this process as well. Friends, family, girlfriends, everybody's a part of it. You got us, and you got each other, and now I'm going to tell you who your captains are next year. They're going to lead you into this process. Your two captains, as elected by your peers for next year, are Zach and Marvin. Stand up real quick. Fellas, you and you, everything I just said, I expect you to uphold it with no compromise. You're great young men. Everybody else is behind you. All these people are behind you. And we're going to get this done in 2016. We'll talk shortly.